What's up, guys? Welcome to Joe Did It. I'm Joe. This is my very first video on this channel, so welcome. And it's also the middle of the night right now here, so if I mess up my words and I start stuttering or I can't think of the right word, that's why. I have a 2-year-old and she's the love of my life, and I don't like to, not spend time with her when she's awake. So I finally got some free time this early morning, late night to set this up so I could go over some of my projects with you. And I wanted to just take the opportunity to do that. So coming up with the first video for this channel was very difficult for me because I tinker and experiment and invent on all sorts of platforms, both software and hardware. And so I narrowed it down to one piece of hardware that I really am in love with at this point in time. And it is called the Particle Photon. It's this little guy right here. So let's see if my equipment wants to play nice and focus here. There it is. That's pretty nice looking. It's a little Wi-Fi platform, Wi-Fi Arduino platform that has a built-in Wi-Fi chip, built-in antenna. You can connect an external antenna, which I often do for many of my projects. Very compact, very easy to work with, but don't think easy to work with means it's only for beginners, because it's not at all. You can be an expert in electronics, and you'll find uses for this guy. And there's really, it's definitely not if you're a beginner, you'll be up and running in 1 minute, believe me. A minute and 30 seconds tops is what it takes to get this thing, get your first program running in it. And it has, so if you're not familiar with it, and most people watching this video probably are, so you can skip this part, but because you probably found it by searching for Particle Photon. It has a built-in RGB LED, so you can actually write programs for this and not even have to have anything but power connected to it to start to see them working. It also has another LED linked to a D7, which is one of the outputs on it. But it's a really robust platform. I've used it for a couple years now, and I have it operating in one of my businesses. I have about, I've maybe over 100 of them at this point. This is my collection of boxes that I've used, from all the ones that I've used. Comes in a nice little fancy box. Not much to it. But I'll tell you what, it's a really powerful platform. It's cloud-based. You flash it over the air. If you've never worked with Arduino, don't be intimidated. There's no drivers to install. You can literally be up and running with an iPhone and a Chromebook. You just need a full web browser. You can't really write the code in an iPhone. But the iPhone is for provisioning. It wakes up as a soft access point. You connect to it. You adopt it into your account, and off you go. And you can write your first, high D1 high, wait for 5 seconds, and then D1 low, and you have yourself your first Blinky app, and I'm telling you, it's very fast. So anyway, I want to show you some of the projects that I've worked on with it. And the reason why I chose this piece of hardware as my first video is because I get the question all the time. I get people who come to me all the time and they say, Joe, I really want to learn how to get into electronics. Most of these people, now in my adult life, I have a lot of people who weren't into it when they were kids. See, I started when I was like 6 years old, tinkering in a little makeshift electronics lab in my dad's house. And a lot of people now, they're seeing that there's a lot of power in it. It's a lot of fun. Everybody's automating with their Amazon Echoes in their homes, and they want to fix some problem that they have. And sometimes people just say, I want to get started, and I don't even know what I want to do. And I always try to encourage, so if you're new to this and you're watching this for, it's the first time you've seen this type of device, don't be discouraged if you, it's not overwhelming. Once you learn how to use these things, it's very easy, and you'll have so much fun with it. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help people get started with electronics at all ages and all stages of expertise. But one thing that I see a lot is when people ask me, they say they want to get started, and they say, oh, I want to go invent a cruise control for my car that doesn't have it. I will never tell somebody not to do a certain project if that's really what they want to do, but I would suggest steering away from projects like that. First of all, it's very dangerous to try to invent cruise control for your car if you're the one driving that car, or if anyone's driving that car. Secondly, that is an enormous project to undertake. You will need PID loops, you will need safeties, you will need, depending on the car, how do you plan on talking to the actuator? Do you even have an actuator in your car? Those sorts of things. So I try to think small to start out. Projects that are going to be satisfying and you can get there pretty quickly so that you're not discouraged. So what I'm going to show you here are a couple of projects I worked on. Some of these have real world applications, and some of them are more just for fun. But let's get into it. The first one is this guy right here. This is, okay, so let's say we all have that person in our lives who either buys plants and then you're forced to water them forever because the person's really good at killing them, or they take care of them and they end up dying anyway. So what this is a plant that has a water sensing probe in the pot. Let's see if I can get a close-up of this guy for you. So this is a moisture sensor in this pot right here, and I chose I can go into detail with this. I can do a whole video on this if you'd like to see it, but I'm just showing, this is not a tutorial, this is just 5 cool things I've done. So thing number 1, the plant that sends you a text when it gets thirsty. So this is just an inexpensive moisture probe that goes into the soil of the pot, and it measures the soil in this pot continuously. I wired it up to a particle photon here that has a little OLED display that shows you, I came up with a 0 to 100 scale for how moist it is based on what the sensor can do. It's totally arbitrary, so I have it set to send a text if the soil moisture drops below a 20. And like I said, it has no real scientific meaning, but once it drops below 20, here we go. So we are at a 29, and let's see if I can set this up so that we can see everything here at one time. So we have the phone here, and we have our display, and we are going to pull the sensor out of the pot, which should drop us below 20, and we should get a text message from the plant telling us that it's thirsty. So this is, there we go. This is a very simple project. Seems like it should be really complicated and maybe require a team of engineers to do something like this, but it doesn't. I put this together in about maybe 30, 40 minutes from the beginning to the end, and that included wiring it, writing the code for it, and getting the text messaging to work, and I can go over that in another separate video if you'd like. But that is thing number 1 that I want to show you. This is my favorite because it's fun. It's a fun project. It doesn't really solve a purpose in life because I don't think you'd want to have all these USB wires, you know, the USB and all the wiring hooked up to your plants around your house. And there is a real-world application for this if you were to hermetically seal the probe and maybe bake it into epoxy. You could use this in a nursery environment, in a large-scale environment, or even out in a farm with a solar panel on it. So maybe we can turn it into something like that. All right, the next one. All right, one of my original and very first things I ever did with the particle photon, I actually did it before it was even known as the particle photon. It was known as a spark core, and that's when I modified this guy right here. So the problem I always had with Keurig was that this is one of the original models, and I don't know that if this is the same way with all the models now. I think it changed a little bit, but with the original model, you had to reach around the back of it, turn on the unit. I need to wait 3 to 5 minutes for the water to heat up before it would let you brew a cup of coffee. And that bothered me a lot because in the morning when I want my cup of coffee, as soon as I come downstairs, I want to have to push a button, wait 3 to 5 minutes, get distracted, and then 20 more minutes goes by before I actually come back to get the coffee. So what I did was I modified it, and I stuck a spark core on the back, which, by the way, is the old name for the particle photon. It's a slightly different piece of hardware, but the same concept. I put this guy on the back, and I had found these relays that, let's see if we can get a close-up of this. I found these relays that clip very nicely underneath, and I wired one of them right underneath the spark, so, right underneath the core, and that relay is wired into the switch on the back. So I can talk to my Amazon Alexa, and I can say, Alexa, turn on the Keurig when I'm brushing, right before I brush my teeth in the morning from upstairs. By the time I come down, my coffee's nice and warm. So this was a great first project, and like I said, doesn't really solve a huge problem in life, but it is a lot of fun, and it's definitely a conversation piece when people come over. So this was a lot of fun. I'm going to do it again to my new Keurig, and I also have a modification to one of those little miniature keg machines too. My second project that I wanted to show you is just a thermostat, but not just a thermostat. So this is a Wi-Fi connected, completely open thermostat that you can control and modify the software all you want. It uses the relay board from Particle. So it's a 4 relay board. Now you could, normally on a thermostat you have your heat, you have your air, maybe you have 2 stages of heat, 2 stages of air. But you can have this software so that at one particular temperature relay 1 comes on, at another temperature relay 2 comes on. Maybe there's a delay in turning them off, whatever it is you need for your special application. But the real beauty of this is that with something like Nest or an off-the-shelf Wi-Fi thermostat, those require a cloud connection to work. So if you have a highly critical project that you're working on where you can't use a cloud because if the internet goes down, you still need to be able to control it, or maybe you need to control it with a sensor that's in the room but connected wirelessly back to this guy, you can do all that with this because it's your software. You do what you want. So basically, this works just like a regular thermostat right now. You can see I've actually added a few special features. Every time that it takes a temperature reading, the breathing cyan light will flash yellow to let you know the temperature read happened. Every time it connects to the server, my server, and sends the temperature data over it, and also that's at the same time that it grabs the new heat set point and alarm set points and all that fun stuff. It grabs that information and flashes that D7 LED blue, and if there are any errors reading the probe, because I'm using a Dallas Semiconductor DS1820B, is that right? DS18B20. This is a probe that you can pick up pretty inexpensive from Adafruit or SparkFun. You can just get them as chips if you want, but these are nice and hermetically sealed. So anyhow, this guy does occasionally give CRC errors, and I check for those, and that's you'll get a red light in the event that that happened, and then the software is actually smart enough to send a message back to the server and say, hey, somebody broke the wire on my thermostat. So I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but this is not meant to be a tutorial. This is just showing some of the stuff I worked on. I can do a tutorial on each one of these if you'd like, but this one is. So here we go. I unplugged part of the sensor wire. It's going to eventually figure out something's wrong. The light will go red, and it will stop sending updates. So there we go. It now said something's wrong, but it'll now notify the server, hey, we have a bad probe here. All right, so all I did here was took the relay board that's available from Particle, added a pull-up resistor, and I have the power, ground, and data line for the probe. I actually power the VCC line for the probe. I power it from one of the digital outputs. That way I can manually and remotely reboot the Dallas chip if I ever have a problem. And occasionally that comes in handy, because you might have somebody walking too close with a cell phone or with a very high-powered two-way radio. That can actually kick these guys into like they freeze up, they get stuck, and you can remotely reboot them. But anyway, that's a cool project that I did. I think if we hook this back in here, we can trigger so you'll see how quickly it recognizes that the probe is back in there. You see our light went back to blue. Let's get some torque on there. All right, and then if I just hold the probe, we should be able to turn off that relay right there that's enabled, because the temperature will come up. So right now I have it set to 63 Fahrenheit, and there you go. It got warm enough, and the thermostat works. But really cool, because it transmits the information back. I have it every 3 seconds right now on this particular unit. And like I said, you can take that data, you can analyze that data, you can store that data however you want in your database, and you can take a 30-day view or whatever view you want. It's basically your own weather station. You can expand it and turn it into a full-blown weather station if you want. All right, on to the next one. So this is my breaker panel, and what I've added to the breaker panel is a power monitor. Now, you've seen these before, I'm sure. There's lots of companies that make them, but they don't allow you to get access to that data without having to go into a cloud or having to pay a service fee. This is completely free once you have it. There's no fees. What it's doing right now is it's monitoring the amount of energy that my breaker box is using and reporting that onto my Samsung refrigerator right on the display on the Samsung Family Hub in my kitchen. So at any time when somebody's in the kitchen, they can see how much energy we're using, and they can become more energy efficient as a result of that. Now, I can get into that. I can do a whole tutorial on it, but like I said, I just want to show you how this works. What I'm using is a energy monitor board from Control Everything, which is now known as ncd.io, but this particular board is stamped with the name Control Everything. What's really cool about this board is that it has a socket that supports the Electron, the Photon, and there's adapter boards that you can get, and you can plug in other platforms as well. So if you're comfortable with one platform over the other, you have a need for one over the other, you can plug in these little adapter boards, and you can go ahead and make this talk to your platform of choice. Now, in this particular use case, I have a Photon attached to the board just like that. And the way it works is it has these split core transformers that come off. So there's 2 on my unit that I showed you a minute ago. 4 would connect to this one. And the way these work is they just wrap around the wire, and they can measure the amount of current flowing through that wire. And that information is then fed into this board, which I then convert into watts, because I want to measure power. This actually measures it in amps. I convert it to watts, and then I just add them together if I want to know what's going on as a sum total for the entire home. And what's cool about this is you can buy systems like this that are just energy monitors right off the shelf, but the thing that always bothers me about these systems is you end up with a very segmented home automation system where everything is, if you want to watch your energy, you have to log into your energy console, and that's what's on your display. In my case, it's my refrigerator display. If you want to watch your, if you want to go in and control your lights, you have to log out or open a different app. If you want to see your cameras, you have to open another app. So I just wrote my own home automation software. I call it casa.joe, and I take all the data from all the things and I just pipe it into one screen, so in one place you can go on and control the refrigerator on the patio, or the front door lock, or measure how much energy you're using in your home, and it's all in one spot. So this is for people who, If you want to know about what energy you're using and you want to be energy conscious, this is a great way to do it. Like I said, there are off-the-shelf options for it, and I can go into this in more detail in another video if you'd like. But anyway, that's the concept there. And I read the current usage. I think it's once every 2 to 3 seconds, and I update that, and I can actually take that information and figure out how much we've burned in a day and what time of day, and we can probably make it smart enough to even figure out what it is that's on at the time that's using that current or using that power. So the next thing I want to show you is a really cool device that you would use in your car, and since it's the middle of the night, I figured I'd just show it to you down here. It's known as a car loop. It's a little device that plugs into the OBD2 port on your car. Very cool, very compact, gets power from the car. And so if you wanted to do something like maybe measure if the check engine light is on, if there are any error codes in the vehicle, whenever you come home and you're connected to Wi-Fi, you can have this thing automatically upload that information. There's lots of other cool things you can do, but I'm kind of waiting right now for all the other people out there with all the different makes and models to do some CAN bus sniffing and come out with a list of what I can actually do with this thing. It would be great if I could connect an Electron, which is Particle's cellular platform, similar to the Wi-Fi platform, but it's cellular. I'd love to be able to connect one of these in my car or in my fleet of vans, for example, and be able to say, all right, the driver calls, he's in Nebraska somewhere, and he locked himself out. It would be great if there was a way for me to unlock the doors on that van using information that you can put through the OBD2 port. The problem is that every car manufacturer has their own way of doing it, and it seems that every model year they come up with a different way. So hopefully there will be enough people out there sniffing the CAN bus information and publishing it online so that other makers out there can take that data and do some really cool stuff with it. One of the things I always found that was missing from the OBD2 spec or the OBD2 PIDs is the fact that you can't read the odometer. That's another really useful feature. I can see how if you had one of these connected to your home vehicle or to every vehicle in a fleet, whenever it comes back home or even over cellular, it can update the odometer information and let you know that you need service on your car. So maybe that information is there somewhere, but it's not universal, and I'm sure there will be a list coming out of people playing with these things and publishing that information at some point. So I have a lot of great ideas for it. I just haven't had a lot of time, and it's not on the top of my priority list to do anything with it, but when it is, I'll show you guys what I come up with. And the last project I wanted to show you is something that's more advanced, I'd say, and very niche, and it's something that you might see necessary in a delivery van or in a shipping area or in a factory, or even if you're like me and you have a big room full of stuff in your house and you like to keep tight inventory control on whether or not it's in there. My wife even likes to keep track of how many cans of corn she has left, so when she has to buy more, it will pop up on a screen and tell her that she needs more. I actually invented that for her right after we met. It was long before there were iPhone apps that could do that for you, but nowadays you can just do it with an app. But there still are hundreds of applications where an app just doesn't cut it, because you don't want to have to pull out an iPhone or whatever device every time you want to scan a barcode, or maybe the lighting's not right or you can't reach in the right spot. So that's where you need a real old school barcode scanner. So this application takes barcode data and puts it right into the Photon, up into your server, into the cloud, publishes it, sends a text, whatever you want it to do. So it could be a simple application like you scan the book and the text goes out to the guy in charge of the library that says the book was taken in or taken out. So that's what this does. It takes the scan data. I'll show you in the close-up here. Very simple. I just use an RS-232 to TTL converter that I got and wired these up. I probably have about 30 of these in use right now, and people love them. They're very reliable, and the software the code that's running on these guys is very robust. It sends the data into a server locally on the LAN and performs a production action, something that needs to be done with that label. Just like, okay, so if you could imagine FedEx, when they make a delivery, every time it gets scanned in a different place, there's an action that happens in the software, because now the software knows that that item has passed that location. So think brewery, think winery, think production room where you have lots of bottles of product, and those bottles maybe have a barcode with a date code or with a UPC on them, and you need to keep track of those bottles and how many there are and where they are and when they got there. That's what this application would be great for. That's all I'm going to show you today, because it's all I've got for now. I have a lot of other projects I worked on. I have a sump pump monitor that I built that uses this. Really cool. It uses a non-contact level sensor so that you can actually see how often the sump pump is running. So this is great for homeowners. It would be great in any home that has a basement, but it also has a lot of applications for industrial use. I could show you that, but I'd have to take it out. So maybe on a later video, I'll do a tutorial on that guy as well. Let me know what you guys think. I know I kind of dragged on a bit here, but this is my first video. I'm going to try and be a lot faster with these in the future. So comment down below if there's anything you want to see, and I have an unboxing video that either will go up before or after this. Well, actually, it can't go up before this because this is my first video. So I just received my particle mesh, which is the new platform that they came out with. They have the argon, the xenon, and the boron. Very excited about it. I'm going to jump into this and do an unboxing because I haven't opened them yet, and I wanted to do that with you. So I'll see you guys in the next one.